Close-up and macro. Is there a difference? If so, what is it? Well, stick around to watch this video and I'll explain. The simple answer is yes, there is a difference. A close-up is defined as a cross-section or detail of a larger subject. So, for example, you could take a close-up photograph of my head and shoulders, because you're taking me, a larger subject, and breaking that down into a specific part of it. A macro photograph, on the other hand, could be described as an extreme close-up. The definition of a macro photograph is that your subject appears life-size or larger in relation to the size of your camera's sensor. So if we've taken a close-up of my head and shoulders, you could potentially take a macro photograph of my eye. So here I have two lenses, and both of these lenses are 50mm. But the difference between them is this is a standard 50mm lens and this is a macro 50mm lens. So I hear you ask, why have you got two 50mm lenses and what the dickens do they do differently? Well, the macro lens focuses much closer than the standard lens. The closest I can focus with this standard lens is just over a foot, 40 centimeters, whereas the closest I can focus with this macro lens is 16 centimeters. Being able to focus closer with the macro lens is going to play a really important role in getting your subject life-size or larger in comparison to your camera's sensor. If I'm trying to focus at distance with a standard lens, then it's going to be nigh on impossible to get my photograph perfectly larger than life, whereas focusing closer allows us to fill the frame more with our subject, no matter what size it is. So now you're probably thinking, why bother with a standard 50mm lens? Surely the macro lens does everything that you need it to do and more than this one. And to a point, it does. But when it comes to outdoor macro photography, then there is one drawback, and that all comes down to depth of field. Depth of field refers to the depth of the plane of focus within your photograph. So use wider apertures and your depth of field will become much narrower, i.e. the plane of focus becomes smaller and you have more out of focus bits in the foreground and the background. Now this macro lens opens its aperture as wide as f2.8, so you might think that's great. I can get to my closest focusing distance to this plant here and I can set my aperture as wide as it will go at f2.8 and I'll achieve that beautiful sumptuous depth of field. But there is another deciding factor in depth of field, and that is the distance between you and your subject that you're focusing on. The closer you get, the shallower your depth of field becomes even further. So if I'm at my closest focusing distance with this macro lens wide open, then chances are that the majority of it is going to be out of focus and only a thin sliver of it is going to appear in focus. It's here where those issues start to come in, especially in this outdoor environment where there's a little breeze passing through. Because if we are having to narrow our aperture down in order to deepen our depth of field, then we're going to be letting less light in through the lens, which means we're going to have to compensate by either slowing down our shutter, which in this breeze could potentially create a little bit of motion blur on our subject, or we're going to have to increase the ISO, which means that we're going to potentially increase the amount of noise appearing in our photographs. There are three ways of getting around this issue. The first is to do something called focus stacking. This is where you take multiple photographs at different focus points of your subject and then layer them together. Some cameras will do that in camera, with others you might have to do it in post-production afterwards. The second way might sound a little bit like cheating, but it's used a lot more commonly than you might think. It's even used in high-end documentaries like the ones that David Attenborough presents, and it is to take the macro world into a studio environment. Here, the photographer has much more control over the lighting, the breeze, and all of the other conditions that go to make the perfect macro photograph. Our third way is to forget about the macro lens for a little while and return to our trusty standard lens. This standard lens opens its aperture as wide as f1.8, which means that even focusing at a further distance away, I can still get a decent depth of field without having to worry too much about slowing down my shutter speed or indeed increasing my ISO. However, this method still doesn't come without fault, because as I said earlier, it's very difficult to get a true macro photograph with a standard lens, because we can't physically focus close enough to be able to fill the frame with our subject. So what you have to do to compromise is crop in to a macro level. When people look at the final photograph, a little bit like the studio approach, if it's done well, you probably won't be able to tell the difference. However, you do lose a little bit of image quality as you're getting rid of some of those megapixels. The truth of the matter is, true macro photography takes a huge amount of patience and also a lot of attention to detail. You have to find the right conditions, you have to find the right lighting, you have to find the right subject, and you have to find enough time to be able to bring all of those together into a definitive shot. And that's ultimately why I have these two lenses. Even though they're both the same focal length, they allow me to achieve different things in different situations. If I have the time and the patience to be able to do true macro, then I will always attach my macro lens. But if I want something quick, which has similar results, if not at a slightly lower image quality, then the standard lens does just a good enough job. Hopefully this video has helped you to understand the differences between close-up and macro photography, and maybe which one you would like to pursue more. Unfortunately, I can't make the decision for you about which approach you take, because that's personal to each individual photographer. But having watched this, hopefully making that decision has become a little bit easier. If you've enjoyed the video and got something out of it, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. And if you want to take your technical photography learning knowledge further, then why not binge watch this playlist? I look forward to seeing you in the next one, but until then, bye from me for now.